Hello everyone, this is Rudy Davis. I'd like to tell you a story today. I think it's a very powerful story. The concept comes from Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, so all the credit goes to her. I'm also going to try to be as short as I can, and it's short and sweet. So once upon a time, there was a man named George. George started the 20th Century Motor Company. It soon grew to become the world's best motor company. Everyone all over the world wanted a 20th century motor. They were simply the most efficient, the most reliable, the most dependable. George hired the best designers, the best motor builders. All the workers in his plant were very well trained, and it was a very profitable company. Even the janitors of the company made a good living. Everybody was happy under George, and everyone wanted to work for the 20th Century Motor Company. Now it came to pass that George died, and he had a daughter, and let's call her Myrtle. Myrtle. So Myrtle had a town hall meeting, and Myrtle said to all the workers of the company, "My father has died, and I would like to turn control of the company over to all of you, and I would like for all of us to share equally in the profits and prosperousness of this company, and for us all to basically get paid the same." Now, most of the people in the crowd got to thinking that would be great because this company is so prosperous, we're actually going to do much better under Myrtle's system. So her system won by a majority vote. Now, it did not take long for the producers and achievers of the company to realize that they no longer need to put the effort in to build and design better motors because they're going to get paid the same as everyone else. And it did not take long for the profits of the company to start to decrease and fall off quite a bit. And Myrtle would have town hall meetings to discuss the issues of decreasing production and decreasing profit. And it's not to say that there were not those in true need in the employees of the company, but there were unethical ones among the group that would get up in these town hall meetings, and they would talk about how terrible their life was. They would talk about how they're down in their back. They would talk about how their children are sick and their wife has problems with her teeth. And these were very heart-wrenching stories. And Myrtle would dole whatever little left of the profits to these people who could show that they were more in need. And these town hall meetings just became a place to talk about how you were in need so that you would get more of the profits. And this had an impact on everyone concerned. You have to understand that under the new system that Myrtle created, even the birth of a child was no longer a celebrated event. Everyone around would say, now you're going to get more profits from Myrtle. Whereas under George, everybody celebrated the birth of a child, and it was a blessed event. So, the point I would like to make is that you may be saying to yourself that this is a cold story, and that Rudy, I am not willing to accept the burden of my brothers. And you may say to yourself, I am willing to accept that burden. You may say to yourself, I am strong enough and I will accept the burden of this new system and speak out. I will not speak out against it. Now that is a noble thought, but I would ask you to think about this as well. There's two things. Keep in mind the company eventually went out of business. No one was left with a job. It was bad for every single person concerned. And the second thing, which is, I think, an often, it's not looked at closely enough, is that the system under Myrtle was a system that was full of moochers and looters and bootlickers. the pride in your work, the pride in yourself, the pride in your company totally was no longer there. And when you think to yourself that you're willing to accept the burden of your brothers under this new system, and that even though you know you're being taken advantage of, you're just going to accept that burden upon yourself, I would ask you to consider that it's not you that is accepting the burden. You are putting that burden on our children, and you're causing the environment of our children to change so that they grow up in an environment of moochers and bootlickers and looters, instead of an environment of happiness and producers and achievers and pride in yourself and your work. So when you start to think that you see all of this happening around us in America, that you'll just continue to support the system and you'll accept the burden, even though you know you're being taken advantage of by the system, you need to understand that it's not just you accepting the burden. You're putting that burden on our children. That's the most important part of the story. Because the company doesn't go bankrupt immediately. There's a long period of time. And I believe we're in that period of time in America. One other thing let me share regarding this story and how it relates to America. The story is actually better than the reality going on in America right now. In America right now, we don't just have a Myrtle, we have a corrupt and evil Myrtle. So not only is Myrtle corrupt in that she keeps everything for herself and doles out, and she's creating this environment of mooching and looting and bootlicking, but she doesn't even have any profits anymore because the wealth of the company has long since gone. She's just printing fake money. So the story I just told is actually better than what's going on in America. We have to wake up. Do not say to yourself that the system isn't worth fighting and you'll just accept the burden and go on and on with the system. You have to think about what the system is going to do to your children and the environment that it's going to create that they will grow up in. That's my story. I hope I got my point across, and thank you for your time.